Hey guys, so welcome to the fourth episode, season four of the Teen Whisperer Show. And in this season, we are going to discuss journeys of various podcasters all around the world and how they are doing podcasts, their future goals, and many more. In today's episode, we have an awesome all in all person. So he is the host of the podcast Plan B Success. He has written three books so far, if I'm being correct, and two of them are about podcasting. I'll give the links in the description so you guys can go and check that out as well. So he's an entrepreneur and built businesses all over the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, with a drum roll, let me introduce you to Mr. Rajeev. Mr. Rajeev, welcome to the show. So please tell a little bit about yourself and your podcasting career.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Rajeev Mudumba. I've kind of been in the healthcare space for the last 20 plus years. My background, I have a couple of master's degrees in this age where people are debating whether going to college makes sense or not. You know, you could say that I'm from the previous generation where, we actually made it a point to go to college, right? So I pride myself in that. I think I got a great education and I've used it pretty well so far throughout my career. So other than that, Plan B Success is the podcast, and it's just come up on a year actually this week, and we just launched our 156th episode. I do about 3 episodes a week, primarily aimed at entrepreneurs, professionals, and students. And generally, what I do is it's personal development, personal growth, career growth, professional growth. Those are my focus areas that I like to talk about. It's just like you, I do interviews as well as I pick up solo topics and talk about them. Other than that, I'm into writing, as you said. My first book I published about a year ago. It's called My Inspiration Quotes That Shaped My Self-Improvement Journey, where one of the things that I do is every day at the end of the day, I try to distill my entire day's experiences into a quote that I write. And I've done that for the last 5 to 6 years now. So the book that I published is about 700 odd quotes from about 5 years that I put together. And then other than that, I'm into coaching. I help people with their podcasts, with people that want to launch it. I also coach people on personal growth and business growth topics, both individually as well as in group settings.
Wow, that's great. And this is curious because you named your podcast as Plan B Success. Is it actually? Do you have any experience in your personal life that whenever you have a plan A, did it always fail? So that you actually named your podcast as Plan B Success, or it just came out of blue? How was that?
No, actually, I have a reason for that.
Uh,
I am a firm believer that any career, profession,
mhm.
business, whatever we choose, the very first one that we choose in our life happens. It just happens by happenstance. It's
Yeah.
not like you really planned it out. It's not like you sat down and you said, okay, my 20 years, this is what I'm going to do. Nobody starts
Mhm.
there, right? And then they stick to it, right? There's a school of thought that says that never have a plan B, always have a plan A, because if you have a plan B, your plan A will never be successful. I don't believe in that. I believe in, no matter which plan, try to execute on it, take action. If it succeeds, great, pursue it. If it doesn't succeed, move to the next one. So I'm about, like I said, we start with something happenstance. There's a group
Mhm.
of people, that realize that, hey, my passions lie elsewhere, or maybe there. It depends on the person. You realize what your purpose is, what your passions are,
Mhm.
what you really want to do, what your strengths are, and all of that. And that takes a little time after you've started your journey. And once you have that, probably it's time to take stock of what you really love and then move towards that. and
Yeah.
and some people do that, because when you do something you love, it's no longer work, right? You don't realize how much time you're spending, or you really do it, you enjoy the process of doing it, and that's what everybody should be doing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out in the world who start with that very first job or career that they have, and then they look back and say, this is not really something I enjoy. But you know what? I've spent 4 years doing this. Maybe I'll
Mhm.
just spend my life doing it, get through it. That's unfortunate. So that's what Plan B Success is all about. Saying there's always a Plan B for you to be successful. Realize what it is and make an attempt to take action on it.
Yeah, and I think we can really correlate it to this COVID-19 because many people have lost their jobs. Like tons and tons of people have lost their jobs. So if they have had a plan B, like if I lost this job, I know I if they would have had a side hustle or anything like that, then I think they probably would have gotten for this journey. So yeah, I can agree on that. So this is something that I actually want to ask from an Indian perspective. Like why actually you went to study in US? Is it actually in a personal reasons, or is it anything like a professional reason? If it's personal, no problem. You don't need to tell. But is it anything like
No,
professional?
well, I grew up in the mid 90s, right? So mid
Mm-hmm.
90s is when I graduated out of Pune
Mm-hmm.
with an MBA. And one of the very first things, this was the time when market was opening up in India. First time when international companies were coming into India. So there was a Canadian company that came in, and they were doing direct marketing of consumer durables, toys, kitchenware, those kinds of things that they were teaching you how to sell door to door.
Mm-hmm.
And I joined them, which was kind of looked down upon at that point in time. And a lot of my classmates were out there getting campus jobs. And here I was getting ready to lug a bag door to door after an MBA. And I really like the aspect of it because that probably was the best foundation that I could have found in my life, which has stood me in good stead till date. So, it is basically going door to door, but I learned so much in the year and a half that I did it that I ended up building a team and launching a business with them. And then the Canadian company decided something little different, which is they decided they're going to source their products in India. So
Mm-hmm.
they went to Delhi, Bombay, and they started finding manufacturers for their products. At which point I kind of took a step back and I'm like, okay, I know how they do it. I've learned how to do it, and if they can go and get these products, I can do the same as well. So I parted ways with them. I started my own direct marketing company. I grew it to about 12 locations,
Wow.
300 odd people were working in it. And I sourced my own products and we did really well. Then I ended up selling that business because that was a time technology was booming in India. You had all these coaching centers, everybody was learning technology.
Yeah.
I did the same thing because I came out with an MBA right before technology was a big thing in India.
Mm-hmm.
So my exposure to technology was not that great. Today, it's a different game altogether. Today, from kindergarten, kids touch computers, right? I hadn't seen a computer until I finished my MBA. For me, it was important to go back and learn technology. And, then I dabbled, like just like anybody else, I dabbled in C, C++, Java, all of that. And I very quickly learned that I'm not a techie. I'm not a guy who's going to enjoy coding. So the next best thing for me was to get a business come technology
Mm-hmm.
degree. And that's how I came to the US, which meant going back to school. And I already had a couple of masters. And, either I could look for a job which was not technology related, or get into education again and learn everything the way things were. And I thought that was a good bet for me at that point. So that's how I came to the US. I took an MBA in information systems and e-commerce. And once I did that, now I was equipped with business skills on one side and technical skills on the other. But back in 2000, the world was different. Although I had all this experience back from India, it was not recognized in the US. I had to start from scratch. So I went down the ladder, started as a hands-on business analyst, and then grew through the ranks throughout my career. So that's kind of the reason for me going back and taking another degree and coming to the US.
Wow, 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 that's amazing. Because I sometimes can't even imagine, like once after working, it's studying is really really hard because if you get the taste of the money, it's like you would do anything to do it. Because I'm actually working on this video editing on side hustle. My mom always used to say that don't put too much pressure on it. Okay, just do it as a hobby. Because if you put too much pressure on it, you will get the taste of the money. Then you won't be studying. You won't be concentrating on the study. And I actually agree because I was suffering that for a little bit, and it was actually really hard when you're doing that. So I mean, like having two masters and going on to studying again, it's really great. And talking about this tech savvy thing, being an MBA, my professor also used to say that today you should be an MBA with a technology, tech savvy also. Because like I said, business analyst is actually booming right now. People are asking for data analytics and many of the stuff, and things. And yeah, I really agree that. And to be honest, one point that you said, that when you're dealing with direct marketing, this is something that I also always fear, because it's so easy, because when someone comes to our home, because you in India, you must, you're knowing is that someone will come to your home with an encyclopedia, okay, to sell. Mostly it will be like an MBA guy or someone who sales guy coming to your home
Right.
with an encyclopedia or anything like that. And it's really, the customer might be, sometimes harsh, like we need that, anything, like, because we don't know the customer, whether they're middle class, whether they're anything, we don't know the target audience or anything. So how do you actually deal with the rejection? How do you actually, motivate your employees to deal with rejection?
So that was my very first lesson when I joined
Mm-hmm.
actually the program. So, I had a great trainer, an American guy who actually took me door to door the first day. I just shadowed him and did whatever saw whatever he did. And then the next day he gave me a bag and we marked out a territory and he said, go here and start knocking doors. And I did that. And just like you said, right, this was my day one on the job. And a lot of people were pretty rude, and there was one particular person who actually banged the door on my face, and that was the last straw for me. I took it very personally, right? And that there's a difference between profession and personal,
Yeah.
which people have to learn. But being naive and being new, I took it very personally, and I'm like, this guy just banged the door on my face. And then I went back to the office, dropped the bag, and said, this is not for me, I can't do it, I'm sorry, thank you. And then my trainer, he sat me down, he gave me a bottle of water. After I drank the water, you know, he didn't pity me, or he didn't show any specific sympathy. All he
Mm-hmm.
said was, listen, you can make the decision about your life. It's your life. You can either walk out of here and your history for me, or you can decide to pick up that bag and go back there. You will face rejection, but you need to know that the law of averages works. He
Yeah.
said, go and knock 300 doors and there'll be a 10% return. At least
Mm-hmm.
30 people will buy your product. That's the
Yeah.
goal that you're going after. So I picked up the bag. I went through the rest of the day, just like he said. And, I didn't get all the 30 pieces. I probably sold like 15 odd pieces that particular day. But it was a great lesson that I learned, because, then I started dusting off the nose, irrespective of how the person was or how they reacted, whether they were angry, whether they were sad, whether they banged the door on my face. It didn't matter, because I had this big smile on my face, and repeat, repeat, repeat. You whatever pitch you have, you smile, you repeat, you smile, you repeat. And then I kept doing that consistently. And that's how I face my nose. And that's something that I teach people even today. Persistence and consistency is the key to any business, anything that you do in life, not just a business, right? Whatever you want to do, like this podcasting you're doing, it's not an easy job. You know, um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there who do a lot of interviews. One of the reasons when I started my podcasting, and I'll tell you the reason for the podcasting too, is I saw a lot of 20 somethings who were doing podcasting, and they were interviewing one person after the other and other. There's a lot of podcasts with interviews. And when I started, I decided that, there's a lot I have to share. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of experience and expertise that I have to share. And when you look at movie stars or great singers that you know of, how do you know them? You know them by their work,
Yeah.
all the way back to when they started.
Mm-hmm.
If there's an actor out there with 30 years of past career behind him, you know every single movie of that actor, and you will watch that time and again. That their work is there for you to see. Any employee in general, what happens? What do we have to show? If you're an employee like another several millions of employees out there, what do you have to show? We are all, as an employee, it's about paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
It's about month to month. Whatever you've done last week, whatever projects and whatever wins you had is over. You move on to the next one. You have nothing to show except for what you put on that resume, and that's about it. And then that was my decision to start this podcast, where I said, I'm going to do interviews where I bring in other perspective, but I have my own perspective. So
Yeah.
I pick topics and I talk about it. I do my own research, I talk about it. Like I said, it's not easy, because what goes into that? Your research, your time, you got to write it down. You got to be happy with what you wrote down. Then you got to record it. You got to edit it. There's a lot that goes in. It's very easy to give up,
Yeah.
but persistence and consistency is what will make it successful. When you're out there to talk the very first time or coach the very first time, first is it's having that gut feeling to say, I am going to step out of my comfort zone. I'm probably very happy being an introvert and being behind the curtain and not showing my face. But If you want your voice to be heard, you have to step out and you have to get uncomfortable, even if there's no audience out there, even if there's one person out there. And then slowly it builds and builds and builds. So that's consistency, that's persistence, going at it when everything looks down. If you have the courage to go at it when everything looks down, if you have the courage to be persistent and consistent, irrespective of how things are, the day will come when things will be in your favor.
Yeah, you're right. Because at first I was starting a podcast, like at season one, when I was doing it, I had no idea how to do. Like I just wanted to do an interview because I just love hearing people's stories, because there are like tons of people out there, but people are still talking about Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, everyone. But there are millions of people out there who have contributed way more than that, because those are the people that actually made them who they are. Like either Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. So actually wanted to talk to those people. That's one of the reasons why I did the podcast. And at first I had no idea, so I just messaged random people, like I just put hashtag entrepreneur on Instagram. Just send a DM to everyone. I just maybe just the one thing I wanted to do is that. So yeah, and I can clearly understand how much work it does when it comes to podcasting and everything. And just as one point I want to add, when it comes to direct marketing, is that a guy actually asked me, dude, is it actually worth doing an MBA? He said. I said, dude, what is actually the biggest thing that will break your heart? I asked him. He said, let's say, for example, that if a girl rejects my proposal, that's the biggest thing that can break my heart. I said, you can actually bear that if you go and knock a door, and when you face the rejection of that, trust me, no matter, no girl, not even a guard can come and just make you feel that way, because it's kind of personal and professional as well. Like you said, when someone bangs on your door, it's kind of feels personal, and professionally you are not inefficient as well. So yeah, I think that's really a great thing to coming on that. And just one thing I want to ask is that in today's podcasting industry and everything and stuff, people are using the word pivot. Okay, people are using that you need to adapt according to a business because it's COVID and everything. Do you think it's actually good to this change the way that you're doing according to the circumstances? Or because this COVID is actually it's going to go somehow, like 3 months or 4 months, and if it's gone, you have to change back again. The cost involved in it is very bad. So do you think people should change, or just do it accordingly?
So there are two things here, right? So when you really look at it from a situational standpoint, obviously you got to look at what are the positives, what are the negatives of
Yeah.
doing something. You're right, absolutely. But at the same time, you also have to look at, from a lot of people out there, a lot of coaches or a
Mhm.
lot of people that are doing these kinds of things out there are all about the bottom line, the money, right?
Yeah.
There's so many coaches out there who are teaching others how to make money, right? And in the process they make their own money. That's what they're trying to do. But that's not the point. The point is, how do you benefit your audience, or how
Mhm.
do you benefit your client, your customer?
Mhm.
How can you do something where their life becomes easier in a difficult situation like the one right now?
Mhm.
If you think about it from that perspective, you will get ideas in order to benefit them. And if you have those ideas, then it's a something that's win-win for both of you, right? First, you're offering them something that will make life easy for them. Second, your business automatically, I wouldn't say shifts, I would say it evolves with the
Mhm.
circumstances. And then when a business evolves, it's a natural thing for it to grow and also get into the right pattern when things go back to normalcy. Because you know what? Your customers will remember you for what you did
Mhm.
for them at that point in time. And it's about customer stickiness. It's not about how do I make the shift now with things going bad. What can I do? So one example I can give you is, we know that online education is picking up like crazy because
Yeah.
people are at home. That's the only way to study. So if somebody is invested in an online platform, or
Mhm.
if somebody is creating online courses, this is a great time to do that. And this is a
Mhm.
great, and at the same time, you have to learn the way to write sales copy or market yourself and all that. And it all needs to come from the heart. There are a lot of people use a lot of tricks. There's tricks about, hey, you're going to lose it if you don't buy it in the next hour, or
Yeah.
hey, it's $100 a pop. I'm giving it away for 90% off. All cheap tricks of the trade in order to attract people. And you might be successful in attracting one or two, But if you try and say, hey, this is what I'm hearing from customers in terms of the problems, this is my solution, and this is how it can help you,
Mhm.
you'll have a lot more runway in terms of clients that you get. And you don't have to change your business model. Your business model automatically starts evolving because you're doing the right thing, you're thinking the right way.
Yeah, you're right. And what you actually suggest is that this business changing and evolving and everything and stuff. Do you think people should go after service industry or product based industry? Because service nowadays actually really suffering a lot because people don't have anything to do, so they're obviously saying that no, let's just postpone the paycheck, do the work, then we'll pay. But product on the other hand will always be sustainable. But India, being a service country, it's really based on service country itself. Not many much product countries are there. So, what do you suggest that if someone is going for a startup, do you suggest that the idea should be like based on products or on service?
So service and products are two unique industries, and you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. And India has always been a service provider for the world, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's time India evolves too. Having a product, having a platform, owning the ecosystem, or being able to nurture the ecosystem around it is a lot more mileage for what you
Mhm.
want to do. It's the same amount of effort, whether you're on the service side, whether you're on the
Yeah.
product side. It's the same amount of effort. I would totally bet on the products. I think it's time India starts coming up with products that it has ready to serve the world. And what better opportune time than now? 59 apps were banned
Yeah.
uh, by India, and there's this whole sway of nationalism and patriotism going on in India. This is the right time for people to invest in products
Mhm.
and stand up products. And it doesn't have to be something totally earth shattering that is
Mhm.
not anywhere. It can be something that China had or the US had or somebody else had, but it's an Indian version, made in India thing. And
Mhm.
I'm telling you, with the kind of population we have and the patriotism angle we have, people will latch on to it and grow it. And then it might be ready to be offered to the world as well. So India has come of age, right? You have investments going on in India. There was a lot of dependency on foreign investments. Now you actually have the first generation of billionaires in
Yeah.
India who have grown and who are investing their own money back
Mhm.
into India. So the market, excuse me,
Yeah.
the market's better. Uh, of course, Indian entrepreneurial market, I always believe, is about maybe 10, 15 years behind where the US is. And China is kind of on par with the US, maybe a little bit behind is how I look at it, but they have a better, bigger marketplace. But India is at a point where they can look beyond service and get involved in innovation, creativity, products. And they need to do that at this point because that is what will allow them to take that next step in evolving as a country than just trying to be the service provider.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you because you said that this patriotism rising in this right now, it's really crazy, isn't it? Because when people in our country, it's like you never know what's going to happen next. It's like it's always in this unexpected things. Because after banning 59 apps, there are actually tons of apps like Instagram started to be this reels stuff. It's kind of TikTok in a short form version. They have installed that, and there's an app called Moch. It actually came from Roposo, which actually also an Indian app. So I don't know how to express it because I always want to start my video editing or video production kind of startup in this area. I've always wondered if it actually succeed, how long will it sustain? I mean, like people's mind is really, really, really like confusing when it comes to Indian market. Like when we don't know what to happen next. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that you can always expect in India. And just one thing is that I just kind of this kind of like off the podcast question I always ask my guests is that who was the last person that you made smile today?
Well, I think it's my daughter. We just
Wow.
had a small event for her. Couple of actually, that was the reason I asked to move by an hour.
Uh,
So just got with just got done with that and came upstairs. So yeah, she was the last one.
oh, that's sweet. That's sweet. That's sweet. Awesome. So just one thing is, just two things before going on is that you said you coach a lot of people, and which is kind of really how to say a scary thing to do because when someone asks me to take a seminar, I kind of really afraid is that what if people doesn't listen to me? That's the most afraid because it's even your friend who will be talking to someone else. You would come on, man, listen to me. It's your friend taking seminar. Please listen to me. That's how the feeling will happen. So how do you know that you're ready to do coaching? Like, is it actually something how to say, like, knowledge based, or something just gut feeling? You're just ready to coach and people will listen to you because you should know the words, like, to inspire them and motivate them. So how do you actually know
So I think it's a mix of both, but definitely knowledge base
that?
because. So let me tell you where I started. Right,
Mm-hmm.
I've always had this itch to write, and
Mm-hmm.
way back in 2011 is I think when I really started publishing. I used to write for a long time, but I didn't get into publishing until 2011. So, and the way I used to do it is, I would pick a topic
Mm-hmm.
that I was interested in for either for work or for my personal goals. And then I would do the research, factual data based research. And then, it would take a little bit of time, a couple of days. And then I would gather all my research. And then once I had it in my head, then I would tell it to myself. I would tell myself what I understood based on the research that I had done. And very quickly, it started becoming a habit to write an article, and then I started writing what I understood. Because by the time I finished writing it, then it became a concrete thing in my head that, yep, I got it. I understood it the way it needs to be understood.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% sure that, I have a good handle on it. And the best part about writing is that when you write, what you remember is for life.
Yeah.
It just doesn't go away. And then once I started doing that, I started looking at what I wrote, and I'm like, okay, I'm writing all this. Why not repurpose it? So I
Mm-hmm.
started reaching out to, digital media and print media, and saying, okay, I wrote on this topic, my personal research. Obviously, just like anybody else, there's a lot of people that say no, but you should never give up and keep going. And eventually, I had a couple of magazines who were interested, and then one thing led to the other, one thing led to the other, and then I started publishing. There was a point when like 2016, I received an award for the best article with a healthcare magazine here in the US, where it was, I took a startup that failed in the telehealth space, and I did my research as to why did they fail. They were funded well, they had a business model, they had the staff, they did everything, but they failed. So I did an analysis on that, and that did really well. And then, I also dabble in startups. I invest in startups, in the US and India. I mentor a lot of startups
Mm-hmm.
in one form or the other. And I started doing all that. And then, then what happens is you start becoming an expert at what you do. And then, obviously, people started looking at me as, hey, he's an expert in this field. Maybe we should have him come and speak. And then, part of it was work.
Yeah.
I started representing the companies that I worked with at different conferences. So I would speak on different topics. One thing led to the other. I actually flew internationally to just speak on topics and came back. And I take things very seriously. When I am speaking about something, you can bet on it that I have it, A to Z, totally digested
Mm-hmm.
and ready to roll, because, I don't know what question is going to pop up from the audience. I better,
Yeah.
better have an answer. And I make my, whatever I'm talking about, my PowerPoints or my scripts very, very interesting in terms of providing as much knowledge as I can in that short span of time. And that's the way I do it even now in coaching. I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of people who come for one-on-one coaching in terms of accelerating their careers. I started here. I want to be an executive in a company. How do I chart my path to get there? I talk about that. And then, way back about 10 years ago, like I told you, I started as a hands-on business analyst, and then I grew through the ranks. And then over my career, I've done different things. I've done sales, I've done technology, I've done product management, product development, I've run operational teams, I've run P&L, I've run customer departments. And I did it all consciously because I wanted to have a well-rounded view of the
Mm-hmm.
entire thing, so that I could go and sell something today, and if somebody tells me it's not operational or it's too much of a lift, I can tell them exactly how to create the operational department around it and make it work. And I like to be comfortable that way. I don't like to be comfortable in one function
Mm-hmm.
and say, hey, I'm an expert at sales, I have no idea about operations, and I will not look at it. I'm not like that.
Yeah.
I'm about having a complete grip on everything that I do. And so back in 2020, 2009, 2009, I think, yeah, I started teaching business analysis online. I used to do Zoom sessions just like this, where I was
Mhm.
teaching people. I had a 21-hour course that I created, and for somebody who had no idea what business analysis is all about, and maybe heard that word for the very first time, I could take somebody like that, walk them through the course, and by the
Mhm.
end of the course, they would be ready to go and face an interview for a entry level business analysis position. So that's what I did. And I actually have the same program that I'm building right now, recording it and putting it on my school, the Plan B Success School, on Thinkific. So I did that. And, podcasting, for instance, right? There were a lot of programs out there. There were guys who were ready to charge me like $1,000 to teach me podcasting, or, $5,000. And I'm like, I'm going to figure this out myself.
Yeah.
Maybe I took a little longer, but
Mhm.
I figured out equipment, software, hardware, editing, what technologies to use, how to get your podcast cover art, how to
Mhm.
get it up and running, how to submit to all the different platforms out there. I figured everything out in about 15 days, and the next 15 days I had it on there. Next 15 days I recorded my first set of 6 episodes, and then once I was ready, I started it, and then I kept up
Mhm.
with it, saying I got to have 3 episodes a week, no matter what, and I've never ever missed one so far. So then I said, okay, now I know all this stuff. What can I do? I wrote those books you talked about, right,
Mhm.
on podcasting. So I said, okay, I'm going to write this, and then I'm going to start offering it up to people who want to learn. Now I have a whole 3-hour podcasting session that I've recorded. There's a half an hour one that I give away for free. There's another one that's a paid course that's out there. So I have done that. So I think it's basically, it comes back to you. If you feel solid, don't
Mhm.
look for don't look for acceptance outside. That's something
Yeah.
I tell everybody. No matter who you are, no matter um, what you have studied,
Mhm.
don't belittle yourself, and don't seek external acceptance. A lot of us do that. A
Yeah.
lot of us have a problem where we need the other person outside to tell us, hey, you're on the right track, or you did the right thing. I think
Mhm.
it's a part of it is ingrained, right? How
Yeah.
you have grown up, where have you grown up, your environment and all. The day you let go of that, the day you make up your mind that this is my life, I will lead it the way I want to lead it, and I am in control of it. And if you feel solid about what you have to teach, then it's time you get out there and start teaching. Because if it is not worth it, you will know it very quickly. Your audience will tell that to you, and then you can go back and look at, okay, where did I screw up and what can I fix.
Yeah.
So that's number one, the knowledge. The second part is, like I said, stepping outside your comfort zone and
Mhm.
getting in front of people, to be able to show them that you're out there available to talk. Those two things are key.
Wow. It's like, the script that I wrote, like all in all, I think it perfectly suits you. I think it's really great because I think after reading all of your description, I actually knew that this guy is all in all, because it's not easy to be in, in that kind of place, but that's totally awesome. So just one final question, before closing, is that, what do you actually think is the best tip in the whole world that you can provide to a fellow podcaster in order to grow? The best tip in the world, according to you?
The best tip in the world, I think, is consistency.
Mhm.
Be consistent with what you're doing. You will have a lot of times where you will question what you're doing, where you'll question if you're wasting your time doing it, where you will question, is it really worth it? You might have a time when a particular episode will not do well. You might not have a whole lot of views. Or you might look at somebody out there who has started a podcast and monetized it very quickly, and you might not be able to monetize your podcast very quickly. But if the end goal is monetization, and if that's the intention you started with podcasting, you'll get disappointed very quickly. But if it's your voice, you
Yeah.
know, you're giving a platform to your own voice from wherever you're sitting.
Mhm.
Who else has that kind of an opportunity out there in the world? Get
Yeah.
excited about that, and speak from the soul. Whatever you say, speak from the soul. If you believe in it, say it. And don't fear what the other person is going to say. The other day I did an episode on all lives matter.
Mhm.
You probably heard about what's
Yeah.
going on with
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter and all that.
George Floyd.
Yeah, and George Floyd stuff, right? And I did an entire episode on all lives matter. Black, white, gray, yellow, whatever color you talk about it, they matter. So it's not about one life mattering and not the other. And I did an entire episode on that. And not everybody might agree with me, which I'm very open to, discuss, debate, whatever it is. But that's my point of view. I did an episode once that did really well on, do good people make poor managers? Do nice people make poor managers? So if you're nice to everyone else and you're being nice, people tend to take nicety for weakness. Yeah, no,
Taken
no,
for
this
granted.
guy, yeah, this guy, I don't think will make a strong CEO. Why not?
Mm.
Being nice is something that's ingrained in people, and it's a great trait to have. You don't have to be rude, you don't have to be bossy, you don't have to be one who's saying go do this and do that in order to become a CEO. You can still be nice, and leadership is about service, not about being bossy. And so that's my point of view, right? So there was one that I did on that. I had a lot of HR directors reach out to me on one that I did, which I said, is HR the weak link in a company, or is it actually a strong
Yeah.
backbone? Think about it. HR is between, it's paid by the exec team. it
Mm.
it does their beck and call, but it's supposed to be this non-partial, unbiased
Mhm.
body that is there to support the employees.
Yeah.
But you see a lot of times that HR is basically doing whatever the exec team wants. They're not really siding with the employees. You see that in a lot of companies. You have very rare companies where you have HR that is actually taking its own stand and saying, you, the exec team, are paying me. I know that, but my job is, these are my clients,
Yeah.
and this is who I'll represent. So that's a controversial episode, and I had a lot of HR people reaching out. So there's those kinds of things. And, just like everybody else, I have some episodes that I think will do great, and then you realize, okay, I didn't get a whole lot of views, but that's okay. I was happy with my episode, and that's all matters. And then I move on to the next one.
Wow, that's totally awesome, really, because self doubt. Once it's come, it's really, really, really hard to push that away. And trust me, after being on, like, you know, I've actually changed like 5 schools when I was young, and it's really hard because after that, when I joined college, many people knew me, but I didn't know them because I actually changed 5 schools, so I didn't know those people. And I actually have always had a doubt, like, I will this actually matter? Will what I do actually matters? But after sort of time, I feel like screw it. It doesn't matter what people think. It's just me. I'm enjoying every single minute of it. So I know there will be someone like me exactly in this whole world, like that, to listen to it. So that actually satisfies me. So guys, also listening, please take this into account, because if you're thinking of starting anything, like anything from the start, like podcasting or anything and stuff, just go and do it. It really, really means a lot. So thanks so much, Mr. Rajeev, for coming on the show. And is there anything else you want to ask me at last?
No, I think it's been a pleasure being here. I wish you the very best with your podcast. I think you did a great thing by starting it, and you should keep up at it. Uh, and all good things will come your way. Don't worry about it. Stay consistent. Stay persistent.
Thanks so much, Rajesh. Guys, thanks for listening for podcast. And I've given every link in the description for him to connect and with the books they have written and the podcast stuff and everything. And I've given timestamps also, like what are things that are discussed in this podcast so far. So you can go and check that out. And if you have any questions, leave in the comment section below. I'll direct to him, or if it's possible for me to answer, I will answer them. Then thanks so much, Rajeev. I'll see you guys next podcast.